You know the classic saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words? Well, what about 2 pictures next to each other? Maybe 3,000? That's gotta be like 1,000,000 words. In the past, we would need a ton of time and artistic talent to pull that off. But with emoji, we can whip that out anytime. They've become so useful in communicating the emotions behind texts that you can find them in practically everybody's messages. And while I've been on a mission to expand the roster of emoji, therefore the range of emotions we can express, our time might be coming to an end. In Apple's recent event, they announced Genmoji, where you can type in basically anything you want and turn it into a perfect little Apple-style emoji that you're able to use like any of the real ones. Of course, this is the AI revolution and its consequences. I know you've heard AI bad from 1,000,000 people already, so I won't really get into it. But at the very least, it's gonna totally invalidate this little mini-series we're doing. So as my final case to prove humanity's worth in the emoji design department, I'm back again to fix the world. I gathered comments from all these videos and we have a bunch to work with. Let's do it. To start us off, let's do a barely awake emoji. In the first emoji video, I made this one that was something. And while I think it captures this emotion really well, whatever that is, I want one that's just generally more tired, not as like scary looking, I guess. You know when you're so tired that your eyelids just will not open unless you raise your eyebrows? I think that's what I want to go for. So let's start with our blank emoji we made last time. And let's pull out our huge list of emoji. Now I pointed this out last time, but there's a serious lack of just the generic yellow face emojis, since they only make up 3% of the total amount. But as I'm sure you're aware, they're used way more often than stuff like 430. So again, that'll be our main focus for today, is making more of these guys. To start, let's get some good eyeballs. I want them to be like almost squinty, but like, you know, this. I don't know if those really exist yet. We might have to make our own. I think anguished face is actually really close to what I'm going for. I want to just experiment with making the eyes more squinted. See, like that's a pretty bad edit, but you can already see that the emotion changes completely with the eyes closed a little bit like that. Here, I'm actually just gonna copy an eyeball and I'll get rid of the ones that are on it right now. And let's just mask out the top parts. And to top it off, we're gonna give it some nice eyeshadow, almost like eye bags, but not quite. Oh, I actually heard about something. It looks like they're planning to add an emoji kind of like this, face with bags under eyes. So apparently this one's already gonna come to phones, I wanna say next year. And if we look at the way this is doing it, it just has the shadow right under with a tiny highlight right at the eyelid, which is almost what I was already doing. I'm honestly surprised this emotion has taken this long to make it to phones. I'm not gonna lie, I've totally felt this while driving a couple times, where it's been very essential for me to get somewhere and I just am so tired. And that is not safe. Do not do that. That's looking pretty nice. Maybe going up a little bit so that we can see the top of the eyelids. And we can add a little more detail just with some shiny bits. And I think that's looking pretty good. Very tired and very sadly awake. This is kind of just the brain dead category of tired, where you're essentially non-functional, but you just have to be awake for something. We have a suggestion to make the raised eyebrow emoji better. And I totally agree. This guy's just like a little bit suspicious, like, but especially with the rise of so many sus memes. Oh, I don't want to say that. I feel like this just doesn't convey enough emotion as it should. So my idea is I want one that's just way more zoomed in a way kind of playing with the perspective, so it's more like a fisheye sort of effect. So imagine like big eyeball, smaller eyeball, something like that. And we could actually kind of do this in 2 different versions. One that's just like this and one with the actual eyebrows, because that was kind of the whole point. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. In a way, we messed with different perspective in the past episode with the side eye emoji. I mean, the actual camera placement didn't change, but at least the emoji angle did, which is essentially the same thing. I'm trying to figure out the best way to angle these. Like, we still want them to be a realistic size relative to the other emoji. Let me get a mouth in here. That might help a little bit. Actually, that doesn't look too bad. It looks a lot cleaner now that I have all the elements in there, at least. It's obviously got to stand out being just as big as the letters, essentially. So let's reposition stuff accordingly. I feel like this pupil isn't far over enough. Maybe we just grab that and scoot it just barely. Okay, I think we're running into another problem though. You can see since we scaled up the eye so big, it's looking pretty bad quality, especially along the edges here. I think there's a filter I can do for that. Yeah, That's pretty good. I might fix it up a little more later. We'll see. But anyway, let's move on to the eyebrow version. So let's take some inspiration from our original eyebrows. We'll go up and down. Make sure to make it thicker as it gets to the middle. Round off our little corner here. Let's mess with the scale a little bit. Maybe warp it a tiny bit to fit just that tiny bit better. And let's draw the other one. Same deal, just a little smaller because it's obviously farther away. Yeah, okay. Now let's just tweak the lighting a little bit, and I think that's pretty good. We'll just get a tiny little highlight almost outlining it. But even with something as subtle as that, I think that helps it stand out just that little bit more. I'd say those are two pretty essential additions to our phones. I expect them in the next update, Apple. Cool, now moving on, we're gonna do a blushing emoji. Now the one we already have, the flushed face, is already pretty iconic. And while it's got a lot of situations that you could apply it to, I think it's kind of missing the emotion of being just purely embarrassed. I think I'm imagining something close to this. And I swear there was an emoji that was pretty similar, but I guess there's not, which is all the reason to make it. I want it to mainly be looking downwards, still eyes open and the eyebrows up, like this sort of thing, but with the eyes open and the mouth open. And obviously we'll add the blush on there as well. Oh, I think I'm kind of going for this one that I made last time. So that's actually a pretty solid head start. I'm gonna have this low opacity on top and move the features elsewhere. So eyebrows a little bigger and eyeballs a little lower, along with the mouth. Maybe we'll scrunch up the eyes a little bit. And to get the blush, let's download our color reference right about here. And I guess just something like this. I almost want it to be more red. Let me blend it in a little nicer. We'll erase it right under the eyes. Oh, it's kind of sad. I feel bad. Now, these emojis so far are great and all, but I thought a good way to show them off would be if they knew how to skateboard. Okay. So I tried putting together a little highlight reel, and this was the best I could do. It did not turn out how I imagined it in my head. You know, doing kick flips, grinding rails, whatever this is. But then I realized I should have just used story blocks. For a single subscription cost, you get unlimited downloads of high quality footage, templates, music, and more. Meaning I'm able to download as many awesome skateboarding clips as I want. To make this even cooler, I decided I wanted to add a shot of a volcano and a shark. Yep, they got those too. Storyblocks has a huge variety of clips, so it's easy to find something that fits your specific needs. And they frequently grow their library with commissioned content to keep it fresh. And just like that, I already have a highlight reel that's a significant step up from my original one. And it really is that simple. Storyblocks keeps you legally covered since anything you download is 100% royalty free. To get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one set price, head to storyblocks.com/OatsJenkins or click the link in the description. Okay, next is a kind of fun idea. While emoji are designed to fit almost any emotion, some are infamous for putting off the wrong vibes. I'm specifically talking about slightly smiling face. It's like the most generic happy face ever. It should be conveying happiness. But there's something that pulls that off way better, and that's a colon and a parenthesis. This is, of course, what you'd call an emoticon, and they, of course, far predate emoji. And it's like you'd say that this is the direct translation of this. It's just the same thing, but sideways. But somehow it just conveys the worst vibes ever. So like this person is saying, let's try to make some emoji that convey the feeling of the emoticons while still being emoji. So let's just do that. That looks really funny. Let's make it the right color and everything. That's so strange. That gives off some completely different vibes than I thought it would. But at the same time, it's kind of awesome. I'm keeping it, sorry. And while we're at it, let's just make the other versions. Like frowny face, maybe the winky face. Oh, that doesn't look right, but I'll accept it. Oh, and there's one more main one, the big smiley face. Okay, that font does not work. It's supposed to look a little more like this. So let's change that to a different font. Whoa, that one's nuts. Using bubblegum pop font. It's got a little tongue and everything. That makes me feel very strange. Cool, now let's move on to another emotion that we're kind of lacking, and that's a true anger. Now I know what you're thinking. We got so many angry emoji. We got angry face, enraged face, face that's cussing you out. And even the steamy and devil ones could be considered angry. But I feel like all of these have been used ironically enough that they almost don't convey that meaning anymore. Like it's almost more like, ah, I'm so angry, rather than genuine rage. And if there's anything I know about emotions, it's way more common to express your emotions in a toned down state, and somehow they come across even more than if you did just full on blow up, which I think this comment points out perfectly. We should get an eye twitching emoji. Now, technically that shows a little less anger than these pure angry faces, but I think the eye twitch just shows that you're on the brink of losing it. So we'll start just like this, and we'll kind of just cut into it like so. Let's just do something like that. Bring back the black in the pupil, and we'll give it a tiny highlight just so that the pupil still stands out. And I think we just need to emphasize the bottom eyelid. So again, we'll bring back the darker color. Maybe same with the other eye, actually. I'm gonna smooth out that edge just a little bit. That works like really well, and it's kind of scary. Like that looks like a genuine bulge in the skin. Maybe we tone it down just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. If you ask me, this one looks a lot angrier than that one. Cool, then going on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm gonna make an emoji that's so crazy that it's kind of a scary energy. And I'm actually gonna start with the one we just made, but make a few key differences. First of all, we're not doing the eye twitch anymore. I want like a teethy, like not smile, but just like, ugh. Yeah, kind of like this, I guess. Grimacing face. Not quite there, but it's the closest we can get. Or maybe that does work, actually. That's kind of freaky. I kind of want to curve the edges of the mouth, though. Like when I'm doing that face, you can kind of see that the middle of my lips are going inwards and the outer are going out. Does that make sense? So let's just do a little bit of warping, going down with the edges and up with the edges, just a little bit. Then the final tweak, I just want to make the eyes red. Like not cartoony red, but just like the veiny, like red eyes. I don't know. And I think that should actually be super easy. Get an inner glow, make the color red, make the size a little bigger. That's actually kind of freaky. Jeez. Is this too scary? But that's exactly what I was going for. Jeez Louise. I'm gonna finish that there, and we're not gonna think about it too hard. Let's just put that down here in the corner. I mean, to be fair, this could be used for quite a range of emotions, I think, where you're just feeling crazy. I don't know. Maybe not, but it's still a kind of unique addition, I guess. Okay, then the past couple were a little negative, to say the least. So let's try to cheer up the mood with our little guy. In the first episode, we drew out this guy. And in the second episode, we expanded on that idea with this little guy, just giving him a little body. And this person pointed out that he's not wearing any clothes. I should have probably thought of that. So we're just gonna work on that, give him a little t-shirt and some pants. I don't know the best way to do this, but let's just send it. Something like that'll do, right? Yeah, that already looks a little more appropriate. Got the shirt, let's get the pants. But we're just getting the general outline. Now let's just give these layers some shading. Trying to stick with the Apple style, meaning pretty soft shading. Not too bad. Let's move on to the pants. And yeah, I think that's a lot better. Great suggestion, by the way. It's crazy how much personality these get. I know this is way more complicated than the others, but still. And with those clothes, I think that's a good transition into making some objects rather than only these yellow faces. Like this guy that says we should take the 100 emoji and make a different number. Now, really, we could do any number we wanted, but I think the one that would apply to the most situations is if we just did a 0. Nice, that's a pretty easy one. Some people were trying to get me to do some like pretty mean ones, like trying to purposely bully people with some emoji, and I'm not gonna support that. But I feel like a 0 in the context of the 100 emoji is a good way to subtly jab at somebody while also still being lighthearted and not being too offensive or anything. Next up, we got a campfire emoji, which apparently doesn't exist. It wouldn't be one of these videos if I didn't talk about the Mandela effect. In the first episode I did, I talked about how everybody thinks that there's a robber emoji, but it doesn't actually exist, which is why it was first on the list for this entire series. I don't know if people necessarily believe that the campfire emoji exists, but it at least makes sense that it should, right? Now, sadly, I can't find a high quality version of this, but I think it's pretty clear we should just start with the regular fire emoji and just add some logs. Is there a log emoji? That would be really helpful. Oh, there totally is. Sweet. So let's just separate it so it's one and the other. Trying to outline this carefully if possible. Then we're just gonna wanna mess with the scale of it. Like maybe just smaller logs, something closer to this. Just jamming a bunch of logs in there. That looks pretty decent. Far from perfect, but that definitely gets the idea across. And that's the whole point of emoji anyway, right? Shrink that down with the other guys. All right, that was a good break. Now let's get back to the faces. If we take a look back at our list here, you can see there's this whole section for face hand, meaning it's just the regular faces with some hands next to it or something, giving it some sort of context that you couldn't get otherwise. But I feel like there's a few that are totally missing from here. One of them being the regular face palm, which we have by the way, but not in the regular style. Another one just being a head scratch. That's just like a comically goofy, like expression, you know, which nobody does that in real life, I feel like, but somehow everyone still knows what it means, and I think it's a good addition. And then lastly, this is more of a personal preference, but in the modern day, I think it would be totally used all the time. Just this sort of face with the hands covering up the sides and just looking down like scared. Anyway, let's see what we can do to make those. I think head scratching will be the easiest because it's essentially the thinking face just with a differently placed hand. We'll just take this, take out the hand, and let's try to find a hand that would fit. Like almost the pointing, but it needs to be sideways. Ooh, it's kind of like this guy, but the thumb needs to be curved more. So let's just copy that into here, get it positioned right. Let's select just our thumb and just warp it a little bit, maybe. Something like that, kinda. That looks a little off. But if we kind of hide it behind the front finger, then it won't matter, hypothetically. Maybe we bend the front finger a little bit as well. Ugh, it does not make me feel good playing with fingers like this. Feels quite off, actually. That's fine. That looks kind of bad, but you know, we gotta move on. So there you go, a real head scratcher. Next is the face palm. This one should be super easy. I think we just start with this guy and just literally slap a hand onto here. Maybe give it a little bit of a shadow. I think I understand why they didn't do that. It's not very clear, but there you go. And finally, this guy. I don't want it to look like this. I want it to specifically be at that angle. So again, messing with the perspective a little bit. But I think again, we can have this as our starting point. Let's get our stuff kind of in position with the eyes slightly lower than normal. Then this one can shrink down and be squished. Almost like this guy we made earlier, but the opposite direction, quite literally. It really is quite similar, just opposite. That's looking pretty good to start. The eyes are currently looking towards the camera, which isn't really what I was going for. So we'll just grab these pupils and bring them downward. I mean, even just that is kind of funny. We can save that one, why not? But we've got a mission, let's grab some hands. So I want just like a regular view of a hand, I think. Maybe like these two, because it's got the palm on this one and not on that one. So we go like this and like this. Hold on, these are all distracting for me. Let me hide them for a second. I almost want it to be curved a little bit, which I think we can accomplish by just warping it a little bit. Okay, something like this is coming along pretty well. Let me get rid of these little white spots. That's no good. The lighting kind of looks like it's coming from different directions, which isn't great. Let me grab the shadow from the hand we made earlier. Maybe we can direction that a little bit. Don't want it to be too intense, but I think that adds a nice little effect. And maybe we kind of apply a shadow on the back hand. The hands look a little janky, but it gets the point across. Not too bad. And with that, that finally brings us to our bonus emoji. And this will be the ultimate checkmate towards AI. The whole appeal of AI is that we can make anything we want. But what if our phones actually just let us make anything we want? Like literally just what I've been doing, but built into the phones. Now, I don't mean pulling out Photoshop and going through all this crazy effort, but imagine the Meme Maker from the Wii, where you can make limitless characters with relatively few options. What if we could do that with emoji, not just these circle faces, but also with all these character type ones. There's all different kinds of face shapes and hair colors and all sorts of variety and poses. What if we could just make our custom emoji and then fit them into any of these poses or occupations? I feel like this is the ultimate solution to keep the control in our hands while continuing to give these emoji as much character as possible. And like this person says, why not let us customize it to something unrealistic as well? We could do crazy colors or position the facial features wherever we want. I feel like this is a way more logical and fun step than just making the computers make them all for us. But anyway, I think my favorite honestly might just be this guy. It's kind of cute, and I feel like it would fit a lot of different emotions. So here's me putting it on the globe for the tradition. And for next episode, let's fix some snack packaging. I know we already did chip bags and candy wrappers, but I'm talking snacks. I feel like there's a middle ground there that doesn't quite fit either category, but those videos were a lot of fun. Let's just keep those vibes going. Leave a comment for how you would want me to fix those, and I might pick it for next time, or just let me know whatever else you want me to fix. I see those suggestions easier if you're a channel member. Thank you guys for the support, and don't forget to subscribe.